I'm Normahiram Perez. I'm part of a group called A Call to Action on Puerto Rico, Un Llamado a la Acción por Puerto Rico. We are here tonight to talk about, of course, we are going to talk about Maria, that is what's going on right now in Puerto Rico. But we had planned a presentation about Peñuelas because people is asking us about Peñuelas and what's going on in Peñuelas. But in general, it's not about Peñuelas, it's the environmental colonialism that we are suffering in our country. So since 1898. So that's why I'm here. In my company, we have Judy. Judy is the president of the New York State Nurses Association. So if you want to introduce yourself, Judy.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Judy Sheridan-Gonzalez. I'm the registered nurse, emergency room nurse in Bronx, Montefiore Medical Center. Been an ER nurse for over 30 years. And recently our group won leadership of our union about 6 years ago, and we've been in the process of transforming our union into a social justice union. We're very involved with climate issues and just general issues around social justice. So I prepared this PowerPoint to discuss environmental colonialism. We've heard about environmental justice and environmental racism. This is another form of environmental racism and injustice, environmental colonialism. Mm-hmm. How do I get you to change this slide? Just go like just a moment. It's important to contextualize what's going on today in Puerto Rico. As a colony, first Spain and then the United States for over 100 years, it's basically been a source of plunder. That is the role of colonies, and certainly Puerto Rico has played that role. Many of us are familiar with the struggle in Vieques, and it's very important to see the history of what's gone on and why we are facing what we're really facing today with a lot of these hurricanes and the lack of infrastructure to accommodate. This is just a next. Sorry, I'm doing it myself with that. Next. So this is just a sample of dumping. There's been toxic dumping throughout the island. There's been a big protest. Remember, the people in Puerto Rico are not accepting these issues point blank, and they are protesting and fighting against all this toxicity. All this dumps now with the hurricane that just occurred, this has actually entered the land, entered the soil, entered the air, and entered the water. Our biggest fear has actually come true. Next slide. And probably in this audience, people know I did prepare this PowerPoint for mixed audiences who may not be aware of the role of the vulture funds and the hedge funds in bankrupting Puerto Rico. They bought up debt, these were investments, and they're demanding that they get their money back. Next slide. Which introduces us to the age of austerity, magnified tremendously in Puerto Rico because of its colonial status. Because of laws in the Constitution, the hedge funds must be paid before monies can be spent on the people of Puerto Rico. So that's damaged the infrastructure terribly. Water supply, the electrical system, which doesn't exist right now, roads, transportation, are all suffering. We're suffering before the latest hurricane. Next slide. And people are protesting. There's been huge protests across the island, bringing many coalitions and forces together, demanding that the debt be canceled, that the debt is unreasonable, that the debt is immoral. Next slide. We have to place this in this global context of global warming that's happening all over the world, and it's well understood by scientists that the global north, which the United States mainland is part of, is the cause of a lot of this global warming by the burning of fossil fuels, but it's the global south that suffered the most dire effects. Next slide. I'm not sure how many people remember in 2015 the sequía, the horrible drought that affected Puerto Rico, the worst in its history. Next slide. Where fertile lands became wastelands with cracked up soil, plants dying, and people actually not having water. Next slide. As a result, there was terrible water restrictions, some cities not having water for 5 days of the week. Again, the infrastructure was poor, it couldn't be accommodated. And what do people do when they don't have water? They try to create cisterns and other ways of collecting rainwater and other water, and that leads to vectors, mosquitoes. And we saw the rise of chikungunya, Zika, and these other infections. Next slide. In understanding climate change, it's important to understand the role of carbon dioxide and also methane, which is far more poisonous, and its polluting effect on the Earth. And having to explain from what we call the climate deniers, who are in control of a lot of our economy right now, it's important to understand the science. So just a brief talk about the science. Next slide. So this carbon dioxide was sequestered into the ground 350 million years ago when the dinosaurs died out. And all of our ecosystems and the evolution of mankind occurred in a different kind of climate than what we're actually going to. Because a lot of people say, well, we had the ice age, we had climate change is real. We said, well, in 350 million years, that's okay. But in 60 years or 70 years, it's not okay. Next slide. Just a simple understanding of the greenhouse effect. Most people have heard of the greenhouse effect. They don't understand the role of carbon dioxide and methane within it. And it's, again, we need to arm ourselves with knowledge if we're going to argue our point. And as these sun rays go into the earth, they get radiated off. But when you increase these burning of fossil fuels, it allows this carbon dioxide, methane, nitrogen to block those rays from returning, so the earth warms up. Very simple when you think about it and look at it that way. Next slide. But look at the impact. In only 30 years, half of the Arctic ice shelf has been destroyed. Glaciers are calving. So what does that do? It raises the level of water in our oceans. It desalinates them. It changes all those ecosystems. But the biggest issue is much more moisture is in the water. The water levels are higher. Lowlands such as Bangladesh, Florida, and many, many islands. Vanuatu, I think, is almost completely underwater. I'm not sure if it's Vanuatu or another island in the Pacific. But what happens is moisture maintains in the air. And that is what impacts our hurricanes and our other phenomena. Next slide. This unusual, and this is before Maria. We had 4 major hurricanes in the Atlantic that were category 3 and above at the same time. This is pretty much unprecedented. So when people say, well, climate change doesn't cause hurricanes, that's true. But the intensity, the velocity, and the dangers of the hurricanes are intensified because of climate change. Next slide. And that is Irma. That's the eye of Irma, bigger than the state of Florida. And that we thought that was our biggest fear at one point. But next slide. In Puerto Rico, the infrastructure for electricity was so poor that even though Irma just touched the island, electricity went out for everybody in all those areas and didn't come back even before Maria came in many of the parts of the island. Because of this austerity, because of the relationship with the hedge funds, electricity was a mess. Next slide. And of course, I had to update this since I did this a week ago. Very emotional. So this size of that hurricane, where the eye is right there over Yabucoa. Look at the size of the hurricane, look at the size of Puerto Rico. The devastation on the island was complete. Next slide. This is just a typical scene that we've all seen with horror. I mean, I think after the first 2 days we had to stop looking at the pictures. Next slide. So these are some scenes, animal carcasses floating down waterways, deforestation completely, 80-90% of the island completely deforested. The power lines are like jokes. And of course, we've heard of the dam in Lake Oaxaca that they wanted to evacuate 70,000 people. It hasn't broken yet, but next slide. The next day, you had people on the ground. These are pedals with their shovels and their ropes and their boots, and they were hitting the ground, and resilient population, strong boricuas, trying to make the island whole again. Next slide. Even the children. I love this. I love this picture with their little brooms. So, next slide. Now there's a history, I'm going to go briefly through the history. This is the Cordillera Central. 50 years ago, there was an attempt to do strip mining there, which would have destroyed this entire area, and there was a huge struggle. In Puerto Rico, the environmental struggle to save the environment is very much linked to the anti-colonial struggle. That's not necessarily the case here in the United States. Next slide. And just so you see what water looks like, now what these strip minings would do would create toxins in the water supply, and destroy the water for most of the population that was fed by that area. And I think 25% of the water supply would have come from those areas for the north of Puerto Rico. This is what water looks like after it's contaminated. This is a real picture of a water supply that's contaminated. And I don't think anyone here would want to drink that water on the right. Next slide. So Casa Pueblo, we gave birth to Casa Pueblo. Alexis Masol, an engineer there, led the struggle of the community to fight a lot of the strip mining. That struggle was won. That stopped happening, and in Adjuntas, this Casa Pueblo was founded, which played a major role later on. Next slide. Just to illustrate what happens, again, knowing the science, so we can explain it. This is fracking, where is also fracking creates natural gas, which they say is clean. It is not clean. This is what happens when you have to frack this natural gas. These toxins go into the ground, it enters the bedrock, it goes into the aquifers and goes into the water supply. And this is what poisons people. This is, I don't know if anyone ever saw those pictures of turning on the water and the fire would come out with the gas. That's what they call clean. Next slide. And that very high volatile gas is transported in pipelines and in trains. This is what's called a bomb train. These containers are made for orange juice. They have volatile gas in it and they explode. Next slide. In Quebec, one of these trains exploded several years ago, killing 47 people and destroying an entire town. Next slide. So that same gas, that is what they wanted to do in another event that you may have heard about, the Gasoducto del Norte, which was cynically called Via Verde, which was to create this beautiful way of bringing this clean, safe, natural gas from the north of the island down south. Once again, next slide. Big struggle against that. A lot of people joined in and got international recognition. Next slide. People engaged in civil disobedience, and I think that we have to do a lot more civil and uncivil disobedience in this age that we're in. Many demonstrations occurred in both the United States and in Puerto Rico. Next slide. And significant in Puerto Rico, some of the unions who are not supporting our climate struggles here in the United States, because of the understanding of the nature of colonialism, the UPN and other unions were supportive of that struggle. Next slide. And of course, we won that struggle. The Gasoducto, after much, was defeated. Next. Did I leave out the Pueblo? Did you skip a slide? Yeah. So before Vieques, the military actually had occupied almost all of Culebra. They had depopulated most of the island and attempted to completely move everyone out of the island, which is frightening. That was a big struggle. Next slide. And through a series of activities, the military had to back down and said they'll move their military activities to somewhere else. So guess where they moved them to? Next slide. They took over most of the island of Vieques and contaminated that island. Because remember, when they do their exercises, they leave the detritus in the island and it destroys the soil and causes much cancer. Viequenses have higher rates of cancer and many other diseases, asthma, than the rest of the island. Next slide. And again, through struggles that called for international attention, many arrests, much civil disobedience. Next slide. The Navy was forced out, but again, the devolution that's needed to clean up the environment did not occur. Fishing industry was destroyed. There are live mines still, and lots of military evidence left. Next slide. And this is just some documentation on the public health impacts. As nurses, what we've tried to do, again, in our union, because nurses might say, well, why do you care about climate? Why do you even care about Puerto Rico? That's not about nursing. We've tried to hook up our interests in healthcare to these other issues that are affecting our population. It's very important if we're going to win any struggle to make sure that people make connections, and we try to make those connections. Next slide. What I find, sadly, many people are not aware of the role of the pharmaceutical companies. In Puerto Rico, we're trying to teach our young people history. Next slide. This is the net effect of the use of pharmaceuticals and the exploitation of our people. Look at these salaries. It's amazing to think that people can live on that kind of a salary. Next slide. And what many people don't know is that birth control pills were tested on women of Puerto Rico in the 50s and 60s so that they could be made safe. This is like Tuskegee. And without any kind of moral compunction, 1/3 of all Puerto Rican women were sterilized without their informed consent. The operation was so common, it was called la operación. And there were many struggles against exposing that, and unfortunately many of our people don't understand the role of eugenics in colonialism. Next slide. And of course, with the pharmaceutical industry getting all these breaks, it set up a lot of factories in the island, and the waste disposal of these pharmaceuticals have poisoned the waters as well. Next slide. And many theories about antibiotics in the water, and what happened with premature maturity of Puerto Rican girls, we feel is very much linked to this kind of dumping of the antibiotics and other things in the island. These are just many other struggles that are going on that are environmental. The incinerator in Arecibo, the struggle to keep the beaches clean and belonging to the people, and fumigation and so forth. And Norma will talk more about the cenizas. Nothing to mention. But next slide. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you next slide. Next slide. Next slide. So one of the results of colonialism is the incredible increase in poverty and unemployment. And when you have poverty, unemployment, and no services, you're going to have some violence, especially among our youth. There's a lot of gang violence in the caseríos and in the poorer communities, and resulting in murders and deaths and gun violence. So just to show you how disgusting some of these people are. Next slide. So something was floated by that Puerto Rico would be perfect for medical tourism. And what they said was that they could make it a transplant mecca because there are so many young, healthy organs from all the deaths of these youths. This was published, and there was a lot of reaction against it, so they kind of dropped that really quickly. But that actually did happen. There was a thought that could just unbelievable, right? Next slide. And of course, you know, the plan, and we are very concerned about this disaster capitalist plan that we think, because of the hurricane, could be implemented. You know, turning the island, forcing migration out and turning the island into a tourist mecca with everybody enslaved working for the tourism industry. Next slide. And asthma and air pollution doesn't just affect Latinos in Puerto Rico. The Latino community in this country is also much more likely to die from asthma. Next slide. This is the Cross Bronx Expressway. Next slide. And as you can see, in the Bronx and in El Barrio and in Harlem, that's where we have our highest rates of asthma. That's where incinerators are. The violence against people there is very similar to the violence here. That woman on the right, the bottom right, is a woman whose arm was blown out. She's a 21-year-old EMT from a concussion grenade. Freezing water in the freezing cold, and I was there, it is cold there. And dogs, next slide. Not that dissimilar to what we see in Puerto Rico with the children. Next slide. So this is a graphic. I'm not going to waste your time with it. I don't like reading things, but these are all the different examples that we show. This is something we give out to our nurses to show the impact of climate change, particularly in poor communities and marginalized communities, how it affects health and why it affects us as nurses. Next slide. And we try to point out to who our common enemies are. Everyone here knows about the Koch brothers? One of them owns part of one of our hospitals, the New York Presbyterian, so we've been able to make that connection. These are the people who are the climate deniers. These are the people poisoning our planet. These are the people exploiting us on the job and in our communities. Next slide. Next. Oops. So, you know, this is how we can get our nurses to fight against climate change, something that never happened before. And unfortunately, very few unions are involved. We're trying to organize other unions to get more involved in the climate. Next slide. Also making links around after Charlottesville, around social justice. Again, making links for our members around gun violence and what happens with racism and white supremacy. Next slide. And DACA, we had nurses, we actually led the march. This was a funny, another story for you. Okay, next slide. And now we have Maria. Next slide. Oh, I did put it in. Oh, I thought I put it earlier. Okay, moving on. Did I show this before?
Yes.
Yeah, I did. Sorry. I haven't slept in a week.
Yes, all these have you seen before.
Oh, you see it again. And what we did as a result, we established what we call the New York Recovery Network. We had done disaster work before, and now we have already over 80 volunteers, nurses to go. We're going to go in medical teams to Puerto Rico. Government to do it, but you know, they're going to provide us with the transportation, and we're taking advantage of Is this gonna go on, over, I better not say, okay, so.
The JetBlue thing you're
Oh,
talking
better
about?
when we're not on tape about, more about this. Next slide. We think mass mobilizations are critical to this fight. This is the climate march. We need more of those. Next slide. So that we can have clean water. Next slide. Healthy food, healthy land. Next slide. Sustainable energy. Next slide. And save our planet and save our people. That's it. Okay. Sorry about the duplication. That's it. Finish. Next slide. Over.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Judy, for this great, I think you was trying to connect everything, because we need to have an idea that this is connected with everything. Global warming, what happened in PR is related with this. What's going on here with our communities, that we have the amount of people with asthma and diseases is happening in PR, but you know it here. People in the US, they don't even know what's going on in Puerto Rico. People don't even know that we are citizens, so. But this is not about citizenship, it's about the human. We are humans, no? So I want to continue with my presentation, but I want to say thank you to the Firehouse Community Center for this great opportunity. I didn't say it before. Thank you for opening this great place. There is a lot of people asking us for videos or record our presentation, so thank you to our compañero Cordero to reach you and talk to you, to have this spectacular activity today, and thank you for coming. So if the presentation is ready, I can start. It's gonna be in a minute. So as I said before, I'm Normahiram Perez. I'm part of the Call to Action on Puerto Rico. This is our second time talking about Peñuelas. The forum is called Peñuelas Focus on Environmental Colonialism. And we need to say Peñuelas because now Peñuelas on the target. But before Peñuelas, it was a gasoducto. And before it was Vieques. And every time we have something that is related with environment. But in PR, as Judy say, the fight, when we try to solve these problems are not only our problem, it's someone else that is making decisions. Someone else who's trying to sell our land and decide what they want to do with our land. And even though we live in New York, Puerto Rico is our land. So if we need to have that ownership, that that's our land, this is our people that we need to support. So the idea of this forums is to educate people. We protest, we do social media, we always try to have a press release denouncing, saying what we try to, saying in the US, but we need to educate the people with data, with information that is reliable, from people that you can trust. So that's why Judy is here, and myself, we are preparing to different activities. Our next activity, I'm going to take the opportunity until the presentation is on. Our next activity is October 11th. So we are going to share in our Facebook community page. And I say community because after Maria, a lot of people send us messages, and it's like a big community. So we have another activity October 11th. We are talking about Promesa, but we want to talk about Promesa, the law Promesa, now with this new situation. What they are going to do about that, what they are going to do with our communities, how we are going to support, how we are going to target, which activities the diaspora is supposed to do to support Puerto Rico. So be aware that we are preparing that, working on this next forum, educational forum. Also, we are trying to do it in different places because that's another concern of the people in the diaspora and people in our communities, that we are always in Manhattan, and we need to move on to a Bronx, to Queens and Brooklyn. So if you have friends in different boroughs, let them know that we are trying to find places, and if you have a place that you want us to, present or have our educational forums, invite us. we are very pleased to go and do the presentations and invite our people. Yes.
So I think what Norma's talking about, education, is really important. When we marched in the parade, because we had done a lot of education for our members, we had 100 nurses marching in the parade with shirts and messages against the promesa. And I can't tell you how many young people, second generation Puerto Ricans, who said, "What's promesa? What are you talking? Why is everybody wearing these shirts? Why is the flag black? Why are you doing this?" We had no idea how many people just didn't even know what promesa was. You know, people knew probably who's on American Idol, but they don't know about promesa. So the education piece is really critical, and the linking to other struggles. I just came back from a weekend at a conference called Labor Network for Sustainability. It was labor unions concerned about the climate, and I met people from Black Workers for Social Justice working in North Carolina, fighting toxic ash, fighting the same struggles that we're fighting. People from West Virginia fighting these same struggles. These struggles are going on everywhere, and we were able to share our information. And because the hurricane had just occurred, we passed a hat, and we collected over $1,000 from people's pockets to send to relief efforts there. So it's really important to make links with people so that we can support each other in our mutual struggles. You want to switch this? So you can-
Yes. We'll continue the conversation, but we're
Okay.
already taking.
Okay, perfect. So we have 5 minutes. Do you want me to send it again?
No, I
I
finished it.
I have it, no, in the computer.
I think I have it, hold on.
You have, okay. I can email to you again, I have it here. Okay, so if you have questions, we have 5 minutes break, and then we are going to continue the recording.
Think about a question, and then you can come up and ask it.
Are you doing the protest tomorrow? Call to action?
At Police Square, down at Federal Plaza.
I saw an invite this during the day. I was out of during the day working. So I saw the invite like an hour ago. So
And not to mention on the tape, because
no, I guess yeah.
It's going around. I saw it on a few.
But I want to mention, if someone here wants to still, Marina, they are still accepting donations in the Casabe or no? Not at this point.
no.
And Maestro, we're asking for online
Yeah.
support to get the stuff there eventually.
I was in the Maestro Saturday and Sunday. Saturday was scary. A lot of things to organize, clothes, and because we need to check everything. Like, it's not expired. We need to classify everything. Like, this is for kids, this is for women, this is for men, this is shoes. Or throw away things that are not good, things like that. So Saturday was scary. A lot of donations. Sunday, I think we make it work. It was a lot of boxes, a lot of people. I was requesting for people power, like crazy. We need people power, we need people power, we need tape, we need scissors, we need markers, we need this. So people power came and we made it. I think it was great. But I think they still, I spoke to, I think it's Maria or Mary, and she said if they want to set more, they are going to allow people to give the donations. And
We're the work that we're doing in partnership with Maestro, we're going to stop tomorrow and then focus on packing, but they are going to continue short. So it's been amazing watching the senior citizens, the residents in Casabe, helping us sort the clothes, fold the clothes, sort the food.
We're having some trouble with JetBlue now, though, and also looking for boats. They're saying one thing, then they're saying only military planes can go, then they're saying JetBlue can go, and now people are looking to see if they can send things by ship, but then to get things by ship, they have to approve it to land in the port, so it's getting a little complicated.
yes,
Sí, pero my concern es que en este momento lo más importante es la comida y el dinero, ¿ve? Porque no es que quiero criticar, pero quiero decir que tenemos los closets repletos de ropa y todo eso. En este momento eso no es lo prioritario. Lo más importante que necesitamos en este momento es comida y dinero para hacer factible y rápido llegar esos alimentos allá.
Sí, usted.
What are you doing with regards to the Jones Act? You know, for example, I just had some tweet, and Cuomo was on television, and apparently he's the governor of Puerto Rico now. He's taking the initiative, and I welcome that. You know, but you know, there's Venezuela, for example, who could supply us with oil, and instead of allowing Venezuela to come in and help us, Trump wants to invade Venezuela. They're having maneuvers right now, and that's tying up U.S. forces down there rather than providing those forces for our help, and so on and so forth. So that should be a priority, especially with the dam just about broken, and so on and so forth. So how would you tie this in? Because the Russians can help us, the Chinese can, and they're only 500 miles away from Puerto Rico, not like 1,000 miles from Florida, and so on and so forth, or Chicago, where these troops are coming from. So.
All right, we're ready to start.
10 minutes.
Well, 20 minutes.
Can you just answer that 1 second? 1 second. Can you just answer that really quickly?
Sure.
So-
Hold on 1 second.
We're trying to coalesce around two main demands that we can bring people together around. And even McCain, who must have, something happened with his brain when they operated, but he's also calling for, we're asking for suspension of the Jones Act and moratorium on the debt. We think those are demands that people can wrap themselves around, as opposed to saying canceling, because we want to stop the process right now. So we're trying to get everybody to say suspend Jones Act, moratorium on the debt, because we think we can get a broad coalition right now.
You just said that in the air, too.
Okay.
Perfect. And you can ask that question again. Okay.
You want to switch so you can see your show?
Yes.
I'm not gonna go up there.
Okay?
I can say, it's not a problem. I have it here.
I
We're
was-
very flexible.
All right, thank you.
I was wondering if you could say something, if you've gotten word from people about what the state of the schools is. I mean, given that the government is wanting to close schools anyway, and if there's schools that are in ruins, that might give them an opening to push some of that through. So I was wondering if you could talk on that a little.
We can talk about later, and I think now is the time that they are going to take advantage of what happened, like FEMA, and they are going to introduce a charter school. I think we were the only territory in the U.S. that we stopped the charterization, we call it.
Right.
So we stopped it. We didn't allow the charter school to go there for different reasons. So this is the time that we need to be aware that they're going to take advantage of whatever we have left.
Right.
Because right now they know that now we can, before we cannot pay the debt. So now how? And I'm against to pay the debt, even before the hurricane. Because it's not our debt. So we can report that later.
Okay, 5 seconds.
Okay. So, as a second part of our presentation of Peñuela's focus on environmental colonialism, this is our information, so we want to contact us. This is a call to action on Puerto Rico, llamado a la acción por Puerto Rico. So you can contact us by PR call to action at Gmail for information, we can share information with you. And also in our Facebook community, a call to action on Puerto Rico, so try to find our page on the group page. So we can try to share everything that is reliable. We have a lot of people that post information. We try to be aware that it's a reliable information and it's good to have it there. Now, right now, the call to action on Puerto Rico, it looks like it's like Maria call to action or helping or sending information about Maria, but I was the one that I thought that if this is a community, the majority of people is from the diaspora, we need to share the information. There are some information that is not true. There are information that is not, that's the information that the government wants us to know, or the government wants to share, but it's not the truth. So we're sharing everything related with Maria. Next. So we did our first forum 2 weeks ago in the Bronx about peñuelas. Why peñuelas? Because that's the target right now in Puerto Rico. Now for sure, the new target is after Maria, the aftermath Maria, and everybody's gonna take advantage. And right now they are taking advantage. The politicians, you can see on the news, talking about what's going on, doing press release, the mayor doing a press release, and then the government the next day is doing another press release, just to show the power, who's gonna help more Puerto Rico. And the reality is that they are not getting nothing from the states, from even the people that support different cities in the island. So peñuelas and focus on environmental colonialism, and we can change it after Maria, the same title, because it's the same situation. Next. So can you please, I think it's, the next one is not, no, the previous one, I think it changed the order. The next one, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna start saying that we want to send the solidarity with Puerto Rico, with the Federación de Maestros, which you saw, you put a picture of them in the recovery after the hurricane. Also, the information is not there, I don't know why, but we have a PayPal account for the compañeros and compañeras from Se Acabaron las Promesas. So people is always waiting for leaders. These are the leaders. This is the people that they are in front of the battle. Not now, before. Working against what's going on in the island in terms of the government, against the what's going on with Promesa, everything that is happening in our communities. So we want to share, we are sharing the information on our call to action Facebook page, because these is the people that we want to send the money, and because I know for sure that they are going to help the people in Puerto Rico. Also, the Federación de Maestros is not only, the money is not it's not only for the Federación de Maestros. It's like an umbrella of different organizations, grassroots organizations like Urbe a Pie, Nid Negrón, even Se Acabaron las Promesas, comedores sociales, that they are doing a great job feeding our students in the University of Puerto Rico in different campuses. So that's why we are supporting these two groups. Next. So I'm gonna read it for him from here. So struggle for environmental justice has become a fundamental part of Puerto Rican social, political, and anti-colonial mobilizations. It's kind of different when we are in a groups here against situations. In PR, in Puerto Rico, it's like a combination of we are fighting for our health, we are fighting because we don't want to destroy our environment, but it's something else, and it's the imperialism. Next. So I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, Paseo Caribe project. A lot of people forgot about Paseo Caribe, and if you go to Old San Juan now, and you go very close to El Condado, you have a huge development in front, very close to Hotel Caribe Hilton. We had a lot of protests. That is part of the Maritime Coast. You are not supposed to develop that area. They did it. So a lot of money, it was paid. A lot of protests would happen, but they won. In this case, they won. They built all the hotels and apartments there. Next one. Gasoducto, as Judy mentioned. Look at the right picture. Mm-hmm. That's part of one of our beautiful mountains, how they destroy it just for the gas pipeline. The good thing that we won, so they didn't construct it, but they always have that on plan, so we need to be aware. Next. Playas Pal Pueblo. Playas Pal Pueblo, that's another group. They fought against the Marriott Courtyard. The Marriott Courtyard is a big hotel. This is a chain of hotels in the U.S. They want to add more parking lot. So we had a lot of compañeros and compañeras, and look like that La Reserva, sorry, I'm not standing. In 2005, how was that area? And look at 2014. So they won, they stay there, but right now after Maria, they're struggling and they need to rebuild and like the whole country. Next. Vieques, you know about Vieques, and we're still fighting because they didn't clean, they didn't do their part. A lot of people are still sick. They don't have the health insurance or even a hospital to get the health care. Next. Vieques, civil disobedience. Next. So Peñuelas. Peñuelas, I'm gonna try to be, very, summarize everything that I did in the previous presentation. Peñuelas is the south part of Puerto Rico. It looks like it was not part of the hurricane, but if you remember Judy's picture of the hurricane, of course, it was kind of in the middle of the hurricane, and we have a mountain of ashes there waiting for the hurricane. What happened with those ashes? They say that they're still there. I don't think so. Next. So before talking about Peñuelas with more details, I divide this presentation, this area in 4 parts, related with the social development of Puerto Rico and how the U.S. pushed us to change the way to develop. So before the United States invade us, we had different, not a monocultivo, that we call it monocrops or monocultures. We had different type of culture. That is very good for the soils to be fertile. When the United States invade us, they make a decision to have sugarcane as the main industry, quotation mark. So monoculture. So it was like the first, it's part of the problem that we have with some of our soils in the north part and even in the south part of Puerto Rico. That happens in Haiti. So that happens in different countries. So they made the decision, we didn't make the decisions. The azucareros were the ones who took care of everything. And if we think about Pedro Albizu Campos, he was part of the lawyer who was supporting the sugarcane workers when they had a big fight, strike. So monoculture and the way that we change how to use our agricultural lands, it was part of the U.S. decision. Next one. Next, I need to divide it, and we can add more information, but we don't have enough time to talk about all these details. I can share the information from where I get this. Then we have the industrialization, Operation Bootstrap, Manos a la Obra. It sounds very nice, Manos a la Obra. That guy, everybody, I know a lot of people some people are gonna be very mad at me, but he was part of that big problem that we have in terms of Manos a la Obra. They moved the agriculture, they decide not to do more crops in different areas that they were, that was the industry in that days, to create like a big industrial zone. And I mentioned Corco because La Corco industry next, and actually, I'm sorry, go back, I'm sorry. That is La Corco, that is an industry from refining oil. It covers Peñuelas and Guayanilla. So if we have problems with Peñuelas right now, it's not only the ashes that they are putting in the landfill. It started with the Corco. And before the Corco, Peñuelas has their own agricultural industry, if we want to say it that way. Next. So that's the Corco. Corco, it was established in Peñuelas and Guayanilla. It started in 1954. So after the Constitution, the ELA Constitution. and it was closed in 1982. 1.25 square mile of land wasted. Right now, we do have just some tanks that they are using to put some oil, to save some oil. I heard today in the news, in the radio station, I'm sorry, that they wanna electrify that area because they can put diesel there to storage the diesel that they are gonna use to fulfill the hospitals and all of that. And I mean, I'm not sure, I don't know if that is the right way to go, but that's what I heard today in the radio station in WKQ. Next one. After industrialization, so think about Acorco, now post-industrialization, we have construction industry. So PR, Puerto Rico, if you are on the airplane, you can see this like a huge urbanization, huge, especially in the coastal zone. That's a floating from now, and that is Puerto Rico. And people think, oh my God, it's developed. From PR is developed. Puerto Rico is is very developed. Look at the construction, but look what happened now in 2017. That's the industry after post-industrialization. Construction was the main way of, for the economy, and Cemento Ponce, which the owner was Perez, the governor. The majority of the highways in Puerto Rico were made of Cemento Ponce, so they used the money. So when people say no, Ferre, he didn't get a penny from the people from the government, I say, oh yes. But what happened with the highways? They were constructed with Cemento Ponce, and he was the owner. Next. So now for the four stage that I divided. Now we have research and investigation. That's very the modern thing that they want to introduce, but. You see, Monsanto. So again, they are trying to make decisions how we are going to build our country. They did it in the industrialization era, they did it in the construction era, and now they are trying to do it with Monsanto. And Monsanto is there, and we need to do more educational forums about what's going on with Monsanto, what is that about. And not only Monsanto, other scientific areas that they are trying to develop right now. So those four areas are very important in government. So that's part of the colonialism. Next. So I put the picture, I change it, so I say, no, I need to show the people that all of them are part of this problem. All of them they were involved of the Peñuela situation right now. All of them were involved in different situations, in different struggles, environmental struggles that we still have it right now. 1994, this is specifically for Peñuelas, they decide to purge the electrical authority, Autoridad de Energía Eléctrica, as they call it, and the Applied Energy System of Puerto Rico, they signed to purchase a company. They give the contract to the company, and the contract is valid for 25 years. That happens in 1994, and I was in my second year of university, so years ago. I skipped all over years. During those years, they were fighting against the community. The community was very active. In our previous forum, we spoke about this. I showed the slide with a specific date, a specific year, where the community were fighting against the Peñuelas, the AAS system in Puerto Rico. But they were successful sometimes, but at the end, the U.S. was the one to make the decisions, especially the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. 2003, after years of trying to figure out how to deal with the issues, they start transporting the issues to Arroyo Barril in República Dominicana. In Dominica, they send everything to Arroyo Barril, And it's very important to say that because they sent 27 tons of rock ash. After that, after a couple of years, 2007, the Arroyo Barril community, they won because they had a lot of situations in terms of health. And then, because they didn't want the ashes in Dominican Republic, what happened with those ashes? They're going back and they're gonna stay in Puerto Rico. So I don't know if this is clear. We have a company in Puerto Rico that make a decision to export the product that for me is not a product. It's something that is gonna, it's not good for our health. And they send it to Dominican Republic. That's awful. And that happens here with the garbage. That happens in different places. So they did that to Arroyo Barril. Now we have the ashes back. They changed the ashes and they mentioned that instead of ashes, they have a rock that is called agremax. And because it's a rock, it's not sediments, because are not sediments, they are together, they are compacted, cemented like sedimentary rocks. They are not gonna be dangerous to the population of peñuelas, which is not true. 2010, I'm sorry, at the end, they want to include not only peñuelas, they want to put the ashes throwing the ashes in the landfill of Humacao. There are only 2 landfills in Puerto Rico that they accept the ashes, according to the federal government, according to the Environmental Protection Agency, which they're always playing and they're always throwing the ball to us. And they always say, okay, this is our laws. You can use our law or you can do a better law than us. Like, okay, make the decisions. We can follow whatever you make the decision. But the government, they are not doing that. They are following what the federal government is saying. Like, they are the ones who know. But we have our scientists in Puerto Rico that say, this is not good for us. This is not good for our South community or even the island because of different, the vientos alisios and all the movement of air in Puerto Rico. Next. That happened in 2010, and then we can skip 2012. EPA again, they say the agremax can release heavy concentrations of heavy metals. They contradict themselves. They say that they are good, and then they say they are not good. So now they say that there are some heavy concentrations of mercury and molybdenum and thallium and different heavy metals. And then that goes to the soil and the bodies of water. And the worst thing that you can have cancer if you drink water that has heavy metals. That happened in 2012. But then 2013, they go back again to the court and the company won. So again, we are still, struggling with the fight. 2013, Maria de Lourdes Santiago, that's the senator she was the senator of the Partido Independentista. She was trying to do a law to prohibit. It didn't went through. The municipality of Peñuelas, their ordinance to prohibit. They had that. They have it, but they don't care. So it's like, okay, the municipality can have a law, but it doesn't matter because the state is the one to make the decision, and after the state, the U.S. government. Next. October in 2016, the decision in 2016, very close to 2017 right now, we are right now, they are allowed to restart the ash deposit. Then in 2017, we have a new governor who is Ricardo Rosselló, and they signed a law saying the law to prohibit, look at the title of the law, the law to prohibit the deposit and disposal of coal ash or coal combustion residues in Puerto Rico. Sounds that they are gonna stop, but they didn't mention agremax. For them, ashes are the sediments, agremax is the rock. That's why they are pouring not the ashes, the aftermath. So, July 2017, civil disobedience start again against the put the ashes on the landfills in Peñuelas. This is a very quick, if I compare with the previous one, the timeline about Peñuelas. But what is important about Peñuelas is the common denominator. The U.S. government is the one who makes the decision at the end. We fight when people say they were not fighting since day one, yes, we have the evidence. We have the tons of paper of people going to the court fighting against this poison activity in Peñuelas. After Maria, they are saying that the mountain of ashes is there, the mountain of agremas is there. They say that they covered it. That is not true. They didn't do that. How they're gonna cover a mountain? It's just, it doesn't make sense. So right now we have Maria, and for sure we have our whole island flooded with ashes of the Peñuelas landfill and the AS deposit. Next. So again, I just want to finish. I'm not going to finish. I'm going to open the floor if you have questions. How is this related with environmental colonialism? We were trying to show you how is this related with the colonialism. The fights, the environmental fights in Puerto Rico, the environmental struggle in Puerto Rico are completely related with our relationship with the United States. They make the decisions. Even though that they say that we have a local government, for sure we don't have it. You can see right now what's going on in the island. We don't have a local government. They are waiting for the federal, and that's why our people right now, after Maria, they are suffering. They don't have fuel for the hospital. They don't have gasoline for cars. They don't have water, even the electricity. I remember the previous hurricane when I saw the news in Florida, Irma, all the trucks waiting for the after Irma attack or hit, all the companies from Atlanta or different states waiting to help Florida. But I'm in an island. I'm an island. I live in an island. Our island needs another type of support. We need to work on the Jones Act because we need to allow our countries that they want to help us right away. And this is something that we need to build here in the diaspora, share with the people that this is not because we are a colony. If we become a state, it will be the same thing. We need to stand up. We are a group that we believe in the independence of Puerto Rico, and we need to stop this relationship, abusive relationship between the U.S. government and us. We are not begging for FEMA. We are not begging for that. We are paying for FEMA. We are paying with our women were sterilized. We pay that. We are not begging for the military to be there. Actually, I don't even want them there. But if they are the people who are gonna help cleaning and open streets right now, highways, to people to move from one place to another, they need to be there. How many veterans we have in our families? Militaries that go to wars that they are not our war. So we need, as a diaspora, think about these things. This is more than colonialism. It's abusive relationship. They are exploiting us. And this is the first time that I think people can see how the U.S. government is treating us. Not as a second class citizens. No, not even as a humans. So everybody's talking about Maria, and we got very emotional when we talk about Maria. We can add more about Maria. If you have questions about Maria, we are trying to do our best answering those questions. But I'm very, you need to be very aware that after Maria, they are going to take advantage of what's happening. The poor people is going to stay there. The rich is already, they are already gone. They are not there anymore. people from Dorado, the ones who pay a lot, very expensive. I'm not talking about my people from Dorado, the ones that are from El Barrio, Mameyay. No, that's not my people. Where I did my research. No, I'm talking about the people from Dorado that are the rich that pay $1 million for a house, and 1.5 million for a house. These is the people that they are gone. They are not anymore. They are not in the island. The people who are staying is the people who is poor, elders, and I'll say elders and more elders, but because if you look at demographic of Puerto Rico is an elder society. Because people, if you look at the information in the news, they are migrating to the U.S. because they don't have options. So we have a couple of minutes left, and I want to say thank you again, Judy, to be with us, trying to educate people about what is environmental colonialism and how the science is part of what we need to learn to explain our people. And also I want to say thank you again to the El Barrio Firehouse, to this great opportunity to record this interview. And I hope, that other opportunities we have for next recording. Yes. So the mic, I think, is open.
Hopefully I have a minute to ask a question. I'm Edwin Chungo Molina. I'm a member of a call to action on Puerto Rico. We've held discussions about the situation in Puerto Rico with the hurricane and what we from here can do. And I would like Norma to please, if you have a minute, maybe you can talk about what are some of the options that we've discussed. I wanted to ask something from Judy, but I don't think we have time.
So what to do with Maria?
Yeah, what are some of the plans that we've discussed in terms of developing help here for them over there?
So there are some colleagues from Call to Action that are planning to travel there. We are going to mention the information in our Facebook community page. Also, we are going to share again, I'm going to mention Federación again because it's like an umbrella in the island. We are planning to have something in October to have a fundraising. So be aware that we're planning to have a fundraising. We are looking for a place. We have a date, but we're looking for the place. So be aware, take a look on the Facebook that we are going to post it. And everything that we are collecting, for sure, we're going to travel, and there are some of our comrades that are going to be there to support our friends in Puerto Rico.
Is our space.
Oh, yes. So we're going to, and when I say our friends in Puerto Rico, I mean the community that we support in different activities. Of course, they are friends. For me, they are family. These people, they are family. So, Judy, you want to say something? We have like 30 seconds.
Just we're spreading the word about the Federación. We put it on all of our Facebooks. We've now raised almost $10,000 in 3 days. And also Comedores Sociales, I believe that their PayPal is now working. It wasn't working, now it's working. I just spoke to Giovanni today. So they're working to, they're feeding people. People are really, people are hungry. People are starving. And we're also trying to still organize. If you know anybody, go to the NYSNA Facebook page. We are recruiting medical volunteers, and we've had experience with disasters, and we'll be coordinating that activity as well.
Thank you so much again. Thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions after the recording, we are very pleased to answer those questions. Thank you. We have more time?
Thank you, talking.
So let's talk about our demands, right?
Okay.
Our demands are to suspend the Jones Act, which is causing horrible harm to people at this point, and also for a moratorium on the debt. Those are two very humanitarian calls that we can all get people around, get our unions, get our communities, get everybody behind it. Like I said, even Senator McCain says we should suspend the Jones Act. I can't imagine that anyone else can agree with Senator McCain about that.
Yeah, and this is the time that we need to stand up as if you are pro-independence of Puerto Rico, this is the time. Yes, take the debt with you. Let me stand up. I'll wait, I make it work. If you want to stay here, if you are scared, we're gonna, anyway, we're gonna start from scratch. It's destroyed. And it's destroyed, and I'm not gonna say it in a negative way. It's destroyed, but I'm gonna take advantage of that. We need to take advantage of that in a good way. We need to separate, and we need to make a decisions like, I don't care what we are, our debt, no, we are not gonna pay any debt, we don't have the money, we want to reconstruct. We want our people to help us. And this is the thinking. This is the time. Even though that this is a very hard time, and we cry, and we can sleep, and we have insomnia, and we can talk sometimes like now, this is the time that we need as a diaspora support them, and as a diaspora, if we can push, not only the Jones Act, not only not to pay the debt, to mobilize the people, and this is the time to move on, to have them make a decision. En español a lo mejor lo voy a decir mejor y lo voy a decir mejor. Este es el momento de que la gente se pare y que decida, este momento yo no quiero estar contigo Estados Unidos, porque lo que has hecho es abusar de mí. ¿Por cuántos años? Te has llevado todo el dinero, tienes todo el dinero, te pagamos FEMA, te mandamos nuestros jóvenes, nos los mataron en la guerra, usaste a nuestras mujeres, te quedaste con 10, que me contaminaste mi agua, me has contaminado todo mi territorio, toda mi tierra. Váyanse. Si nos vamos a parar como quiera sin ustedes. Y esa es la nota que tenemos que tener como pueblo. Y la diáspora es Puerto Rico. Que le quepa bien claro, la diáspora es Puerto Rico. No nos podemos seguir viendo como que unos están acá y otros están allá. No. Ustedes tienen el corazón tan roto como lo tenemos nosotros aquí. No importa los años que lleven aquí. No importa si nacieron aquí. Es cuestión de qué vamos a hacer como pueblo, porque somos un pueblo que vive en una isla 100 por 35 o un pueblo que emigró por las razones que fueran. Y tenemos que estar unidos con nuestros puertorriqueños. And thank you for allowing me to say this in English.
Sí, señora.
Hay una pregunta.
Voy a hablar en español porque así es que me voy a expresar mejor. Mira, yo pienso que para el gobierno de Puerto Rico y para el gobierno de Estados Unidos, María resultó ser la tormenta perfecta. La tormenta perfecta porque nosotros sabemos que Puerto Rico está bajo una dictadura de una junta federal impuesta por el Congreso de Estados Unidos desde hace más de un año. Y esa junta federal, que nosotros lo llamamos la junta dictatorial, quiere cobrarle al país 70 y tantos miles de millones de dólares por una deuda creada fraudulentamente por los bonistas de Wall Street. Ahora mismo estamos viendo que esos mismos bonistas están diciendo, yo te puedo ayudar, tú estás jodido, yo te puedo ayudar, te puedo prestar más. ¿Ok? Así que la tormenta perfecta existe para los bonistas de Wall Street también. Yo entiendo que el gobierno de Puerto Rico intencionalmente ha dejado colapsar toda la estructura del gobierno en este momento, inclusive las estructuras de emergencia, y ha dejado que se joda el país y que se joda la gente, porque precisamente están buscando que se militarice y que sea el Comando Norte y los gringos los que se hagan cargo del país. Y por eso a mí me parece, lo que tú estabas señalando, Norma, la responsabilidad de nosotros como puertorriqueños que estamos fuera de Puerto Rico, pero que lo tenemos aquí por nosotros, es ser voz de los que no pueden hablar ahora mismo. Están rotas las comunicaciones en nuestro país, nuestra gente, la resistencia está sobreviviendo, por tanto un poco no se pueden conectar para hacer la lucha y para hacer la resistencia. Así que nosotros que tenemos esas posibilidades que se está generando, la diáspora ha generado un montón de ayuda y de solidaridad. Yo entiendo que esa solidaridad también es la denuncia pública y la exigencia. Mañana va a haber una actividad, estaba mirando ahorita, se convocó hace poco, menos de 3 o 4 horas, y ya hay 250 personas que dicen que van a asistir, más de 500 interesadas y más de 600 reproducciones. O sea que hay una gente que también entiende que además de la solidaridad que se está haciendo, parte es hay que movilizarse y hay que denunciar. Yo entiendo, el gringo presidente va para Puerto Rico el martes, que de hecho sea de paso, sabemos que tuvo un club de golf que cogió 20 y pico de millones de dólares prestados del gobierno de Puerto Rico, creó una deuda de 33 y después dijo, wow, me voy, que ya yo me llevé los chavos y estoy en quiebra. Okay, así que el gringo que va para allá, el presidente ya de entrada le debe 33 millones de pesos al pueblo de Puerto Rico. Yo entiendo que los reclamos de nosotros deben ser no al pago de la deuda, ¿verdad? No al pago de la deuda, derogación de la ley Jones, de la acta Jones, que se permita la solidaridad internacional. Al gobierno de Puerto Rico yo creo que hay que hacerle un llamado, no sea pendejo, no sea blandengue. Si usted quiere ayudar a su país, lo que tiene que hacer es dejar que esa ayuda internacional llegue y entre. De Cuba, que ofreció hospitales, de Venezuela, que ofreció petróleo, de España, que ha ofrecido un montón de ayuda, de la República Dominicana, que se abran los puertos. Yo creo que esa es la voz que nosotros tenemos aquí para que la escuche nuestra gente y para que la escuche la solidaridad internacional.